First question.
I was just wondering, man, what did you do as a youth to develop your first touch? Anything in particular?
Actually, when I was growing up, there wasn't a whole lot of coaching going on. It was basically, when you went to training, it was somebody would come in and say, the coach would come in and throw a ball out, and it would be like either we play full field or we get in the line and shoot on goal. That's basically what it was. But I was fortunate enough to grow up in an area, in the Kearney-Harrison area in New Jersey, where there was games at the courts all the time. So it was really a lot of one-on-one stuff constantly. I think that's basically what it was.
Anything individual on your own, like at your house?
Well, on my own, I worked all the time. I went to the playground by myself. I tried to shoot to hit things all the time. I did a lot of time on my own. Yeah.
Next question.
What's the one skill that you think our youth lack as compared to the rest of the world?
The one skill that we lack compared to the rest of the world, I would have to say probably this stuff. The first touch into space. If you watch the foreign teams play, they're very good at having good body language in terms of controlling and moving forward with the ball. And I think sometimes our guys, a lot of times, look like this, and the ball comes. Now they control it. Now they're thinking what they're going to do next. And I have to tell you, this U20 team that we have now, I think is better than the last group, and I think there's really good players in it. But I think if there's one thing we lack, I think it would be that speed of play. Yep.
Since you have your coaching certification, do you have any future intention of getting involved with the national team or helping with the recruiting process or anything of that sort?
With the senior national team?
Yes.
It's not in my plans now, to be honest with you. You don't know what can happen down the road, but
okay.
I'm pretty happy doing what I'm doing now.
Any other questions?
You say it's more important to develop, like you talk about first touch and being able to open up the pass. Is that more important at youth level than a lot of times coaches do a lot of ball skills and hot moves and things like that? Individual movement with the ball as opposed to first touch. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's why I was saying that this session was more focused for the 13 through 16 age group, because I think when you go younger than that, I would rather see a player that's very good at all the little stuff. I know there's a lot of groups now teaching the pulling the ball back and all that stuff, and sometimes that can be too much because it goes into, I think, to a point where the kids are too old. And we do get kids even in our academy where they're so used to doing all the pulling stuff that they can't get their heads up. There's so much into that every time the ball comes to them, they need to do 2 step overs before they even think of doing something else. And you don't want them to get to that point, but I would think up until about 11 and 12 years old, it's really, really important to have that control. Yeah, and then you move into that first touch into space, that type of thing, because you need it. Yeah.
They do, so you talked a lot about, in your very end, how you're doing 2-touch only, not 1-touch or 3-touch.
Right.
Do you also ever put restrictions on your first touch has to be a forward touch? Have you ever done that?
No, because it is a good idea. It's something you can implement. But since when I do these type of trainings, I don't use any type of tactical anything. It's all about just the control of you on the ball. I want them to be able to control any possible way they can. So I don't put that type of restriction on. But you could on a special player, for example.
Right.
Like I was saying before, in your group usually you have a couple guys that are more special than everybody else, and maybe instead of in front of everybody, you pull them aside and go, hey, I want you to do this. And he's doing something different than everyone else, but not everyone else has to know it. They just see him losing the ball more, and they're wondering, why are you playing that ball? But he's probably the best player anyway, so no one's going to say much anyway.
Right.
So I do that with my better players. I put them in a different environment within the same game. So that can help, and that's certainly a good suggestion. I think one of the things that's great about all this type of coaching is that sometimes it happens to all of us, especially for me when I retired from the game, and one of the top coaches in the world told me, oh, you just retired from playing, you don't know anything about soccer. Now you got to start learning about soccer. You just finished playing. And you start learning through coaching education, and then you get stuck into going, oh, what does the paper say? Where do I go next? And how does this exercise work? And it doesn't necessarily have to be how it says it here. It's this. Just take every book you see as a suggestion of what you can do, and then implement something that you see fit into the group you have. So everything you see on paper is a suggestion, and then you can move it around any way you want. What I did when I stopped playing, and the coach that told me that, what I said before, was Xavier Oscar Gorta, who coached in the World Cup and in Spain many years and all that stuff. And he said, you don't know anything about coaching. You need to go and coach the youngest players you can find. One of the things I did when I got in there, I'm like, how can I improve to have them? I had a team that was better than all the other teams. how can I still make them improve without, and yeah, the score can still be 6 or 7-0 or whatever, but make it more difficult. So the one thing I did was I wouldn't allow our kids to kick the ball out of bounds, ever. So even when the ball came to our side of the field, it's in our box, they're not allowed to kick the ball out of bounds. So now you give up some goals, but you put them under pressure more to learn more. So you can implement stuff that's not necessarily in any paper that you think, hey, maybe this works with my guys, and try it, and maybe it does. And I think for me and a lot of that group, I don't want to take credit for that group because there's no question that you need good players to win things. That group ended up winning the national championship at under 14, but we're not going to take credit because of that, because I'm sure if I take another group of players who are not athletic and had the same training, I'm sure they're not going out to win the national championship. So you need good players. But I think that type of stuff helps. And they had it from the beginning. They had that pressure on from the beginning. And it wasn't pressure as to, Johnny, do this. It was more the environment that I put them in. Well, now I can't kick the ball out of bounds. Now I have to dribble out, or I have to pass it to somebody. So implement stuff that you think works for you.
Any other questions?
Well, you were saying earlier that it was kind of like a Tuesday session you're putting on first touch. What might be like the next phase to that? I know first touch is always a never-ending battle with those teams, but is there like a next phase we can build off that?
Well, the next phase would be adding the tactical side of it. So now, do you go to goal? Do you know, when you do the possession, I did it freely. They can go anywhere. But now, do you do a possession and you add 2 goals on each end? So now they have to control, and they're under pressure, but now they have to control with a purpose. That makes it harder. You can do, like I said before, for older kids, a lot of them come onto the field and they start with the 5v2. Put them into a 5v2 with a mandatory 2-touch. It seems like it's easy, but it's actually not. When you have pressure on, and the ball is coming to you, it's easy to toe poke it and jump out of the way. But now you have to control it somewhere and play it, so that makes it a lot harder. So it's adding just that little dimension of tactics to things that makes it a little bit harder. And the reason I said that's a Tuesday session is because normally, as I'm sure all you guys are going to all the coaching school, that's why you're here, and you're trying to learn as much as you can. Normally you go to coaching school, well, on a Monday session, you're kind of reviewing what happened this weekend. Your team was bad at this. You need to work on that. And you also need to recover. If they're older boys, you played Sunday, well, Monday's a recovery session. You're not going to put them into the three-player thing that I put them in because that's demanding on the body. They're working, but so that's why I said Tuesday session, you just throw it in there. Monday you're recovering, the rest of the week you're working on something else. And you can just incorporate maybe 1 or 2 of these exercises into the other training. If this is not a Tuesday, you can do this on a Thursday, but just maybe incorporate one of the things into it instead of all of it. That type of thing.
In fact, the 5v2 concept, like I just pointed out, is really the basis of the whole thing. It's the foundation. If you can play 5v2 at 1 or 2 touch level, all right, then
normally
you
play
the game.
at 1, but believe it or not, it's harder. A lot of the times, if you're in a good field, it's harder to play 2-touch than it is 1. Because 1, you just play. You get it and you play, and you get it and you play. 2, now you have to see where the pressure comes from because your control needs to be into space, and you still have the pressure coming, so it makes it a little bit harder. You can also do for even older boys, or some of you, if you're college coaches, you can do one guy 2 touches, the next guy can do 1. The next guy 2 and 1, 2 and 1. So not everybody has to do 2. So you don't get cornered into space.
Any other questions? Well, let's thanks Tab for coming today.
Okay.